Hi, I'm Rita Heikenfeld, and welcome to Love Starts in the Kitchen. And you know, it's interesting when you think about the roots of Southwestern cooking. They go all the way back to the prehistoric era in Mexico. And now the Aztecs are the most famous cooking people for Southwestern cooking. But again, it has Spanish, French, even German influences. The Germans actually fought with Pancha Villa, so all those melding of flavor shows up in the spices and in their foods. And again, really some wonderful spices. Now this is a dry rub that uses dry herbs and spices. The reason is it makes it, you can store it really well. We're going to start off with 2 teaspoons of cumin, or cumin as I say. Now I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. You can either buy ground cumin, and remember with your spices and herbs, do the sniff test. If you don't smell what you should smell, and this is nice and fresh, you toss it out, because otherwise all you're adding is just flakes of brown or green. So I'm going to take this whole cumin seed and I'm going to put it in a spice grinder and show you what an explosion of flavor you get. We're going to go over here. Now this is just an old, I've had this thing it's probably older than my oldest son. It's a coffee mill, and you can buy these anywhere. Very inexpensive. And I use one for coffee, and then I save one for spices. But what I love about this is when you take whole seeds, by the way, they last a lot longer in your pantry, and you grind them yourself, oh my gosh, it makes you feel like you're in Santa Fe. Let's see. There we go. Let's see how this looks. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. If you were here, we've got smell-o-vision going on. You should see this. The great thing about grinding your own herbs and spices, you control how fine they're powdered. Now what happens here is, and by the way, I have 2 separate ones. I usually use one for coffee and one for spices. This cumin smells so good. But what would happen if I wanted to put cinnamon in there next? You can't wash this. You can wash the lid. So what you can do is just take some baking soda and whirl it around. And what that does, that takes all the aroma of whatever spice was in there and cleans it out for the next batch of spices or herbs. So just that little quick tip. And now what we're going to do, we're going to take this freshly ground cumin. Oh, it smells so good. And we're going to use that as part of our spice base. Okay, we're going to start off with 2 teaspoons of cumin, or cumin. I say cumin, being Lebanese, that's what we called it. And by the way, I just read in this very elite spice and herb Bible, cumin was actually pronounced Cumin, and it was spelled K-A-M-O-O-N. So cumin is a variation of that, so we've been right all along. So you want to start off with 2 teaspoons. Now, the firemen here, you know, they're those creative cooks, they don't measure. So I didn't find any measuring spoons, but it's okay. We're going to eyeball it here. And by the way, if you don't want to make your own spice rub, use your favorite Southwestern rub or even a Cajun rub, and maybe just add a tad more of garlic powder. So I'd say this is about 2 teaspoons or so. And to that you want to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of chili powder, your favorite. So, and the chili powder is a red spice. I want you to look at that. Anything red, whether it's paprika, chili powder, cayenne pepper, store in the freezer for long-term storage, because red spices have a lot of oil and they turn rancid at room temperature. Not going to hurt you, but it's not going to help the flavor. So, and be a little cautious on the chili powder. The reason is you can always add more, but you can't take away. And that has not only some peppers in it, it has lots of aromatics. 2 teaspoons of powdered garlic. And if you have granulated powdered garlic, that's okay. Oh, a little more, it's not going to hurt. Garlic's so good for your heart, so we'll add a little more. Excuse me, a half a teaspoon of thyme. And I want to talk a little bit about thyme because there's 2 kinds you can buy. Thyme, by the way, is a very healing spice. Has lots of antibacterial qualities, was used, as you've heard me say before, in the medicine cabinet long before it was used in the kitchen. And if you've ever smelled things like Listerine or Vicks Salve, that aromatic smell is due to partly thyme. Now this is thyme leaves. I want you to look at these. See how that looks? And with everybody getting ready for Thanksgiving or the holidays, thyme is one of the things that we put in our stuffing. This is called rubbed thyme, but I want you to look how finely ground that is. And what happens is, if you don't want to use these teaspoon for teaspoonful, if a recipe calls for a teaspoonful of thyme leaves or thyme and all you have is the rubbed, I would start maybe with a fourth and go from there, because just like I ground up the cumin, this is ground very fine, so teaspoon per teaspoon you're going to get more thyme. So just a little hint. Whatever thyme you have on hand, by the way, is okay. And just about a half a teaspoon. So we're going to put some thyme leaves in there. Fourth a teaspoon of allspice. And allspice is an interesting spice. And it's called allspice because it smells like cinnamon and cloves, nutmeg, lots of aromatics. Now, I will tell you, if you never ever use allspice, just leave it out, because otherwise it's just going to sit in your pantry. And 1 bay leaf crumbled. We're going to talk a little bit about bay. And I want to bring my big bay leaf tree over here. See this? This started out as a tiny little plant in the spring. Bay is a salt buster. The bay tree grows very well in the house and nothing bothers it, so you can start it outside and bring it in. Most likely you have bay leaves though. And bay leaves, if you look at the colors, I'll show you what happens when they dry. If you look at that, this is a dry bay leaf and this of course is a fresh. You can also powder or grind up your bay leaves in your spice grinder, your coffee grinder, and have bay leaf powder. Whatever you want to do is fine. I'm going to use the powder. It gives me a little more control. But if I didn't, what I would do is I would take this bay leaf and crumble it up, and just use your fingers to do that. By the way, when you are adding bay to any dish, and a lot of us know this, but maybe some of you don't, count the number of bay leaves. You don't ever want to leave this in a super stew because it could go down somebody's throat and hurt their throat. So just crumble it up like that. Again, bay is a salt buster. It also rounds the flavor of other foods. Really, really a wonderful spice. And a half a teaspoon of oregano. And oregano, we were talking about this the other night, is probably the most healing herb on the planet. It's good. It's so anti-inflammatory. Oh my gosh, antioxidants. It's really, really wonderful. And as you've seen me do with mostly the herbs and the dry spices, I rub them between the palms of my hand. And everybody always says, why? Because my mom told me to. She's looking down and she wants me to do that. The real reason, the heat of your hand starts releasing those oils. So we've got sort of a clean mess here, but it looks good. And also salt to taste. But with this dry rub, I'm not going to add any salt to this. I'm going to add it directly to the meat. Now this, oh, this smells so good. And I wanted you to see what it looks like. This is another version of it. And this is just a little bit different kind of chili powder, so you get a little bit different color.